Welcome to Foundations. We're the marriage architects, Marc and Heather. And whether you're newlyweds or celebrating decades together, we know there are still paths to discovering new dreams, vision, and purpose for your marriage. We can build a marriage blueprint for you. Just go to foundationsquiz.com or click the link in the show notes labeled quiz. God has incredible plans for your marriage. Join us today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Marriage Architects. And we are excited. We're on remote location, if you can call it that, I guess. So at least I am.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We want to share with you, I think this is probably one of the most exciting seasons for Christians, right? We have Passover. This is our Passover episode or Passover podcast. And then after that, we had Easter. And Heather, I don't know, we haven't talked about it, but it's by far my favorite time of year, my favorite holiday, because it's about life, new life. It's about resurrection. It's about everything that is sacrificial and holy and sacred and God's plan being fulfilled in that for us. And we wouldn't be here. I mean, we couldn't talk about, Christmas, or we could talk about anything else if this moment in time had not happened. And if the world comes together to recognize these two holidays, and it's impressive when you think about it, when you break it down. So if you're wondering, how does this apply to my marriage? We're going to help walk you through that, because we think we have some succinct ideas, and we think that Jesus, in his plan and his purpose for us, gives us some really good thoughts to think about and to work on in our marriage. So, Heather, I know you're dying to ask me, where am I at and what's going on? So you want to ask away, and then we talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's Marc, you are a little bit like, where's Waldo? It's, where's Marco?
Okay. Exactly.
And I think we've done some podcasts where you were in Arizona, college hunting, and you and Liz are Chip and Joanna Gaines of the Marriage Architects. Literally, they create beautiful spaces out of old homes that probably nobody else wanted, but you guys see vision. You guys see what can be. And you're actually, what I love about this episode and where you are right now, even if you can't see it, you can head over to our YouTube channel at the Marriage Architects. He's leaning, for those of you listening in, he's like trying to do the lean so you can see the beautiful fireplace that's like a two-story column from the first floor and lower floor, and just flooding with light. And it's just beautiful what you guys have created, because on our YouTube channel, we had shared, a year ago, May, we were standing right where you are. I think there was an old shuffleboard on the floor of the room that you're in right now. And we were also upstairs in front of the big bay window that had architectural plans and your renovation plans for this house specifically. And hopefully, I mean, I want it to sell really fast, but we have our retreat coming up. And when I am in Denver with you and Liz, hopefully if it hasn't sold yet, we'll be doing some live shots from this location to kind of show the transformation of before and after.
Absolutely. And I think you directed people over to our YouTube channel, and you can get to see a little bit of the shorts that we did. This floor was all torn up because we were putting new plumbing in and redoing the old sewer system as well. And so basically a whole redesign of this lower level. And what's out to my right here is a half acre of undeveloped inspiration, I call it. So can certainly turn that into pool and pickleball.
I'm thinking you're turning this into an advertisement, a real estate advertisement.
I know, totally. It's a lot of fun, and we have a blast with it. So it's fun kind of creating the beautiful spaces and do it in people's lives as well too. What you and I are doing here, it's the same concept, right? Creating something beautiful, maybe out of something that wasn't, or something that needed a facelift, or not necessarily a major renovation, but maybe just needed some, new paint and some spark. So we have fun. But yeah, here we are. And if anybody's interested in purchasing it, just reach out to us at marriagearchitects.co. It's for sale, and we would love
Oh my goodness.
to move in.
Oh my goodness. A shameless plug, but there's
I know.
no shame in this game. And what you and Liz have created, along with your other business partner, John, has just been beautiful to behold and watch. And that's really what we love to do. I have the innermost design where I love to see God transform an individual life. The marriage architects, we look at the relational transformations that happen within couples, families, and the ripple effect of that. And that's why you're here today listening. And this is why we celebrate Easter, Passover. And we pause a little bit in preparation for Easter Sunday, because it didn't just end up with the resurrection power. There was a journey and a process.
Absolutely.
And sometimes life and relationships and marriage is a journey and process before you can get to those mountaintop experiences. And boy, those 3 years of Jesus's ministry, just hands-on, effective, pre-social media, pre-technology and transportation, he moved with the Spirit of God upon his life and transformed humanity that we set our calendars to, BC and AD. I mean, whether people recognize him or not, we have done a shift with this man's life. And I want to encourage people today that that same shift, that resurrection power that Jesus came to announce the good news, is available to you, available to your spouse in your marriage and your home and family. Like Marc's renovated house. That's what gets us excited, isn't it?
Absolutely, because it is new and fresh, and that is certainly why Christ came, right? He doesn't want us living in the past. He doesn't want us living in something that's old or decayed or destructive. The hope that comes in knowing that you can have that and you can accomplish that in your marriage is empowering. And you and I get excited just even talking about those things. I think when I think of Passover and how it relates to marriage, I think of, okay, here you have the bridegroom, and he's very articulate about what he needs, right, to prepare himself to enter the city, what gate he's going to use. They had to find the donkey as well, because we had to have the proper entrance. And knowing, too, that this would be a crowd that would eventually turn on him and crucify him, getting ready for this celebration of his kind of triumphant entry into the city. To me, it reminds me on many parts of the bride entering the church. You're waiting. I don't know about, I was at your wedding, Heather, and it was similar, but for the people that are on this call, I don't know what kind of venue they use, but back when we got married, you still did it in the church. And for Liz, the center aisle was all important, right? Because that was going to be the entrance. That was going to be what people were focused on and looking, and no different than how Jesus entered the city, right? He came through that gate. People were ready. They knew he was coming. They had their palm leaves ready to honor him and lay down before him and to wave in the air. And so I think of that same thing in a marriage, and those are the best of times. Those are, I get excited. Ours was 26 years ago, but I can still remember it like it was yesterday. And it was such a great day. And the entrance that Elizabeth made, we spent a lot of time kind of planning that out and choreographing that, and the music that went with that, and the lighting, and so on and so forth. And right then life happens. And then maybe there's a shift, and you're into now the next week or, maybe the next year, and things don't look quite the same, right? You're maybe in the Garden of Gethsemane. Maybe you're certainly not to the point of crucifixion, but things are tough and you're struggling to figure out, okay, what is next and how do I navigate that? And more importantly, how did we get here? Having in maybe a short time, like Jesus entering the gates here, how did we get here and it's not working? I kind of think, certainly Jesus knew, right? When he was entering the gates, he knew what was coming and he knew the preparation that he needed to make. And this was all part of the journey and scripture being fulfilled. But the disciples didn't have that advantage. And you got to think, this is it. The king has arrived and they're going to crown him king of the Jews and we're going to have our own nation. Their vision and their understanding of prophecy was maybe a little more limited, and
absolutely.
But they knew this was prophetic, but it certainly wasn't going to play out in the upcoming weeks the way they had all probably anticipated. And I think that's got to be a shock to this, right? To go from one extreme, certainly, to the next. And you got to think in your marriage, same thing. Nobody plans for, let's just talk about kind of the worst of the worst, maybe an affair or a betrayal. Nobody plans for that. And nobody even goes into a marriage. In all the counseling that I've done over the years, there was never an indication that that was a plan. But yet people allowed that to happen. And then certainly there's wounds from that and you have to overcome those things. Marriages don't do that. But just think of the contrast of what's happening there. And here we are in Passover and we know what's coming. Your marriage may be suffering through some things right now. You had this kind of glorious history. Maybe it was 1 year, 5 years, but now you're struggling. Now you're trying to figure out, what do I do? What's next? Heather, you have some thoughts about that you would like to share. And I think what's important about it is, from a woman's perspective, right? How do we move through that season? How do we move from the glorious time of this bride and everybody's celebrating her to now the bride maybe wants out or is looking for a different path?
Absolutely, because life is hard. It's not fair. It comes at us, or it comes at our spouse or our family or our kids, and there's sickness, illness, disappointments, financial challenges. And just like those in the times of Jesus, where they were celebrating and rejoicing with this king that was coming, their vision and perspective was maybe political. It was maybe in the church. They could have no idea or fathom the vision of the kingdom of God and how it was amongst them, like tangible, living, breathing. They could touch and see him with their own eyes. They had no idea the bigger picture that he was after. And so if people today are in that place of grief, I want you to be honest with it and not keep pushing it down, because that we can't heal. You had to be honest with this house that was in disrepair. You had to be honest about the plumbing, the electrical, the smells, all of the issues that you and Liz and your partners, your building partners overcame in the new creation of this house. And Jesus was trying to open their perspective to a kingdom perspective, to be bigger. But he was very honest about the realities of the pain and the loss of where they really were at. And even after he came into Jerusalem with Palm Sunday and the triumphal entry, there were some hard things that happened after that, and some real opposition that came into his life and the kingdom, against the kingdom. And he sat down. It's where he also sat down to teach many, many parables that are in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where you can go and just spend some time from the triumphal entry where he comes into Jerusalem, and then read the challenge, the push and the pull of the tension of the world and the truth, the living Jesus that was there for them. So I want to encourage you to be honest with your real situation, bring it to him and open his word, and find somebody who can partner with you, who can really help you. And those are our resources on our website to really help you get new vision, because that's what he was trying to open up. And that's what we offer at the Marriage Architects, is the ability to get new vision, a blueprint for this new life, this new relationship that Easter represents on a kingdom scale, on a personal resurrection power scale. That's yours for your marriage. And it's what we love to do in relationships at the Marriage Architects.
Yeah, I think through some of those parables, right, that you're mentioning, and certainly such valuable insight there. Trying to put things, even as we speak now, and in my own head, trying to think of, okay, here's this period in time where Jesus is being celebrated and everything is just at the top. But yet, and then we have these amazing teachings that are coming as well. But then knowing what's coming, right? Knowing that he is always the final preparation. I mean, this is, his physical life ending, and the pain and the suffering and the shame that he was going to take on. And yet he was strong in that, never lost sight or focus or vision, right? He knew exactly where he was headed. And so now I think, okay, of a marriage, right? How do we stay that course? Right? How do we have that same vision and that same understanding for our marriage when all those pieces are kind of coming against us? And it may be, I was just thinking, when you were talking about parables, I was just thinking there were plenty of couples that I talked to that, during some of the darkest times, maybe not both, but one of them was having phenomenal spiritual revelations and breakthroughs, and growth.
Yeah.
And so you kind of wonder, how the I guess the polarity of that, right? You have this phenomenal time of growth and understanding, but yet you're in some of the deepest, darkest struggles of your life. It's interesting to think about, and such a roadmap. I mean, this season, right? This season that we're in, season of Passover. A lot to be learned there. A lot of parallels for marriage, and especially for marriages that may be in trouble.
And God's always trying to give us a kingdom perspective, because when we're in pain, our vision begins to diminish. Our hope is gone. Our perspective is clouded, and it's really hard to see hope.
Yeah.
In the place of pain. And even Jesus, and we'll talk about this in next week about Gethsemane, but he even got frustrated with the disciples. He's like, wake up. So
Right.
You might be frustrated with people around you, but there is a journey that we all take in this resurrection life, in this new creation of finding hope, healing, the transformation power that God does in our lives individually and in our marriages. And it's why that sacrificial love that Jesus did for us, the church, is the bridegroom doing for the bride. It's what we have to do in those times for each other. There is a sweetness of finding beauty in pain.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's so ugly. that house you're in was so ugly, and it doesn't even look like the same location. It doesn't smell, it doesn't sound, it doesn't feel anything like what it was. And that's what your marriage can be when you begin to bring it to Jesus, to bring it to a place of hope and vision, because pain does take away your breath. Pain does stop you from seeing things the way that God desires. And that's why he went right into the parallels. The kingdom of heaven is like, it is like a mustard seed. It is like, and he went on and on. He gave the parable of the tenants, the parable of the wedding, the parable of the two sons, the fig tree withers. Over and over, he gives us these stories, these little snippets and stories that can really come to life if we allow God to start moving in our life. And maybe you've read the word, but ask him to use the word to give you new vision today.
Great place to kind of leave, I guess, to be this time in this season. If you're struggling and if you're trying to figure out, okay, what is next and how am I going to navigate this? A lot can be learned, but Heather gave some examples of some parables that are there and available, but read through this story of what we call Passover week and know that, okay, it is tough, and there's famous sermon out there, right? It's Friday, but Sunday is coming. And in the next podcast, we're going to talk about that hope and that resurrection and that life that can be given. If you're struggling, head to our website, marriagearchitects.co. You'll find some resources. We've been talking with couples for 40 years between Heather and I. And we know that there is a path and there is a plan. I think there's so much to be learned in this particular season of Passover, just knowing, okay, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't how I thought it would be, right? I was that bride entering the gate for everybody to see and to not necessarily worship, but to look at and emulate and celebrate with. And there we are now, 5 years later, and it's not the path that you thought it would be. And that's okay, because God's called us to overcome. And through this incredible gift of his life on the cross, which is the Easter season, we're not only challenged to overcome, but it's a commandment. These are the tools that you have to overcome any obstacle. I think it's always our honor and our pleasure that you joined us. We're thrilled that you were here. We hope this has been insightful and helpful for you. And we will look forward to seeing you next week on our podcast. We're going to talk about Easter and the resurrection of Christ and the celebration that you can have in your marriage as well.
Thanks for joining us at Foundations. Remember to take our quiz for your free marriage blueprint by clicking the link in the show notes. You can also check out our website at foundationsquiz.com.